Welcome to the latest Evershed Sutherland Legal Insights podcast.
Hello and welcome to Pensions in a Pod, a podcast series by Evershed Sutherland that keeps you informed on topical issues within the pensions and benefits world. I'm Jeremy Goodwin, Partner and Head of Pensions, and in each episode within this series, we'll hear from speakers across our pensions and benefits team.
Hello everyone, and thanks for joining us today. My name is Vanessa Wells and I'm a partner in our UK pensions team. I'm delighted to be joined today by my partners, François Barker from the UK, Eric Bergamin from the Netherlands, and Jan-Jacob Roeder from our German team. We're going to be exploring the topic of DC decumulation and our experience in these different jurisdictions. So, François, coming to you first, I understand that you and the team were closely involved in a recent Pensions Europe study on DC decumulation. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yes, of course. As background, Pensions Europe is an organisation that represents pension funds across Europe, funded arrangements. So it effectively speaks for the pensions of over 100 million people and around €6 trillion of assets. So it has quite a voice. They published a study called Decumulation in Focus. They launched that at their recent conference, looking at the challenges and the options for DC decumulation across Europe. And our colleagues were closely involved in writing, reviewing and producing the report, including Eric, Jan-Jacob and other colleagues in Ireland and France.
And how did the discussion at the conference go?
Well, it was interesting because quite a lot of pensions in Europe are still DB and often what's called Pillar 1 or the state. And the debate at the conference was actually all about the future, the shift to DC that's already going on in some jurisdictions, not least as you'll hear from the Netherlands and Germany, as well as Ireland and Romania. But that's a shift that's going to come to all European countries in time because of demographics. So the discussion at the conference was about that future and also about how, although many of those jurisdictions are still early on in their DC life, there's already a real need to look ahead to when those DC pensions are going to be drawn down. We ran a couple of audience polls at the conference to get some participation. The first question was whether it was too early to think about this, and actually the majority said no, it wasn't. Now was absolutely the right time. And the second question was around what the main concerns were with decumulation. And unsurprisingly for UK listeners, the main concerns voiced were around uncertainty and longevity.
Well, sounds like it was well received and got good engagement from those attending, which is always great to hear. Eric, the Netherlands are known for their defined contribution system, which is globally recognised as one of the best systems. Can you explain why the DC decumulation study is so important for the Netherlands?
Thank you, Vanessa. And yes, as in many European countries, there is a growing importance of DC and hybrid plans at the expense of traditional DB plans. New legislation in the Netherlands requires all DB plans to close for new accruals by 2028 and to convert the accrued DB rights into DC as well as the main rule. The Netherlands represents the largest share of IOP sector, accounting for 59% of the total DB assets under management of IOPs in the European pensions environment. It's safe to assume that from 2028 onwards, 80% or more of the benefits in the Netherlands are DC. I think that with those figures, the answer is given why DC decumulation is also very important for the Netherlands.
Thanks, Eric. But given the current low percentage of DC schemes in the Netherlands, is DC decumulation fully new for the Netherlands?
One would expect, but no. Anticipating the new legislation, there was a legal framework allowing members close to retirement in the DC environment to decrease their investment risk and to pool actuarial risk. Members close to retirement also can choose to receive a higher annuity in the first 5 years of retirement, after which they receive a lower annuity. Another approach is to postpone the start date of annuities, which is also a popular choice in the Netherlands. By deferring annuity payments, the number of years between the start date and expected life expectancy decreases, resulting in higher annuity payments. In the new legislation, as in the current, the distribution of pension capital must be lifelong. but all the mentioned aspects of de-risked and flexible distributions of their pensions are integrated. The new Dutch pension system further has a well-developed legal framework to prevent the downside of variable annuities, which, while allowing beneficiaries to benefit from returns that can at least keep pace with inflation.
Can you tell us a bit more about that legal framework?
Yes, of course. Generally spoken, the risk of fluctuations, like investment risk, lies with the pensioner. The extent of fluctuation is influenced by a combination of choices designed to reduce volatility and spread financial and longevity risks, such as using a collective payout phase instead of a full individual payout, projecting returns, and sharing both financial and biometric risks. A solidarity reserve is also used to soften the negative effects of economic downturns. This system is funded through low premiums and/or returns in both the accumulation and decumulation phase. In this way, the Dutch system smoothens the conversion from DB to DC and protects the members for a pensions gap. In the report of Pensions Europe, the experience and framework are shared, and we hope that other countries benefit from the knowledge in other countries. It was worth being involved in this publication and to share our views and knowledge for the benefit of all members of Pensions Europe.
Jan, in contrast to the Netherlands, some might be tempted to say that Germany is falling behind in terms of DC. Do you think we can expect any movement there?
Well, Vanessa, yes, indeed, Germany is still largely predominantly a DB country. So, talking about decumulation for us in Germany is like a bit of far distant future. That is to say, the need for DC has long been recognized even in Germany, and we actually do have one DC model that has been introduced like 8 years ago. However, due to very tight restrictions and a quite conservative approach, that model is virtually unavailable for most employers. It's worth mentioning that the prior government that was led by the Social Democrats had come up with new draft legislation to tackle that issue and to further spread that DC model. But that was right before the coalition broke apart. So I think there is some hope, though the new government and the new Labour minister set up a coalition arrangement from which I think it can be inferred that the new government does plan to take up the initiative again on that DC model. So that's really something to be watched.
Sounds like politics to be watched. In the meantime, though, is it correct that most employers can still only use DB models?
Technically, yes, that's true. We do have models, though, that are DB from the legal perspective, but if you're balancing under international accounting standards, that can be treated as DC. Of course, you still have the downfall, the catch that you have the legal liability for the benefits, as these models, as I mentioned, from the legal perspective, are still DB. But I think in practice and with the right cooperation partners, the right plan design, that's not a big issue.
Great. You mentioned the new coalition there. Anything else of interest that you can report?
Yes, some further information can be derived from the coalition arrangement, and I think we can expect to see the new government, for instance, further increase alleviations for pensioners to continue working while already drawing statutory pensions or without drawing statutory pensions. So to increase the flexibility of flexibility options in the statutory pension scheme, raising thresholds for what's being allowed to earn while on pension already, etc. So I think for all employers who are in dire need for workforce, and that is an issue in Germany, I think this does look promising.
Thanks, Jan. François, finally, back to you and back to decumulation. Do you think are there any lessons for the UK, either from the report or what you've heard today from Eric and Jan?
So, thanks, Vanessa. As listeners will know, the decumulation debate in the UK is alive and well, and we can expect more onus on this in the forthcoming legislation in terms of obligations to take members to and through retirement. Some of the key themes in the Pensions Europe study will resonate with the UK debate, and they pick up on points that Jan and Eric have made. So I guess there are three key themes coming out of that discussion and the study that will impact on the UK. The first point is that building a default decumulation solution is really difficult because there are so many variables in play for any given member, far more than during the accumulation phase. So the ideal is really to try and get members to engage and choose how they want to draw their DC pensions. That's not easy if you've built the accumulation phase on apathy, for example, using auto-enrollment. Second key element is that if you do have to go for default accumulation, then there is no one size fits all. The optimal structures are probably blending cash, some flexible drawdown income in early retirement, some guaranteed income in later retirement, and a contingency fund for emergencies, for cheerful things like broken boilers, new stair lifts, or emergency surgery. And third point is communication with and providing guidance or advice to members is key in terms of optimal decumulation, and that feeds directly into the FCA's work in the UK on the advice guidance boundary. Those are probably the three key themes.
Thanks, François, and thanks, Eric and Jan. Hopefully that has provided some helpful insight into DC decumulation themes across the UK, the Netherlands and Germany. As ever, if you have any questions or a particular issue we can help with, then please do get in touch.
Thank you for listening to the latest episode in the Pensions in a Pod series. Stay tuned for our next edition, where we will provide more perspectives into the world of pensions and benefits.
Thank you for listening to the Evershed Sutherland Legal Insights podcast.